Chapter 11. A few nights later, the three gathered again in the Batcave. Bruce was just wrapping up his conversation via video with Oracle as they entered. "Keep looking into those symbols," he said. "However disjointed this whole thing seems, there has to be a way to decipher what he's planning next." "You don't think he's just trying to mislead you?" Barbara said. "This could just be a convoluted trap." "No. I heard the way he spoke and saw the way he operates. He's too genuine to try setting a trap like this." "All right, will do. Do you want me to send some reinforcements your way? I'm sure the birds would be pretty pissed off to know all this is going on." "You told me yourself that Huntress and Canary have their hands full as of late. See if you can get a hold of Dick, though. All things considered, New York is probably starting to bore him." "All right, I'll keep trying to trace this stupid thing." She raised the dismantled headset they'd taken from the Eagle. "Wish me luck." With that, the transmission ended. Bruce glared at his notes. "We're dealing with an idiot, and that's what I'm afraid of." You gonna provide any more context than that?" Tim asked. "Gordon and the police took the man in the eagle mask into custody and tried to get information out of him. For hours, he was just as stone-faced as when we got that mask off. When he finally did come back to Earth, he was scared and confused." "And you're sure he wasn't faking it?" Stephanie asked. "Almost certain. He wasn't calm enough for a polygraph, but his reactions and facial cues were enough for Gordon. Said he didn't know anything about what he was apparently doing, that he hadn't been to church since he was a teenager. There was nothing detectable in his bloodstream, but that doesn't mean he wasn't forcibly coerced into this either." Stephanie asked, "Did you get anything else out about their boss?" "That's the most important thing to bring up." Bruce tapped a few more buttons on his computer. While Barbara was trying to trace the signals on the headset back, she received a message. Here's what she managed to record. With a click from the mouse, the audio began to play, beginning at what seemed to be the middle of a sentence. "Assure you now this is pre-recorded. Don't bother trying to track this back to our hideaway, Bat. But rest assured I'm looking very forward to meeting you very soon." It was unquestionably the same voice that addressed them from within the masks. "Allow me to introduce myself, because I know my herald's first showing was unimpressive. I am the Seraphim. Not that I expect one such as yourself to have any idea the weight of that." Already Tim and Stephanie were rolling their eyes, but Cassandra's focus remained intense. "The Seraphim, Dark Knight, is the highest choir of heavenly host, and directly related to my divine ancestors, the Metatron Enoch and the alchemist Edward Kelly. It was Enoch, one of God's chosen, who came to behold his face and kingdom and live, only to be rejected by historians of the future. Save for his distant descendant Edward Kelly, who translated his works from the language of angels, but was imprisoned after only discovering a handful of Enoch's many writings." "You have got to be kidding me." Tim pinched the bridge of his nose. "Conspiracy theory talk at its very finest, huh, Cassie?" Stephanie elbowed Cassandra as she said it, but Cassandra's focus never wavered. "Enoch wrote of days of persecution, days of inquiry, that God's children would one day conquer the land from sea to sea, a golden age of earth united under the banner of God Almighty. And it has been stolen away, not by the Philistines or the Ammonites of the ages past. No, the world has been taken by the opportunists. Kelly was on the verge of his revelation when he was silenced by one of the truth's oldest foes, the Catholic Church." Cassandra's eyes went wide and she had to swallow a little. "Oh, they managed to remove their connection to Kelly from history, but you cannot hide reality from one such as myself. Ones who see the truth. Those who would bend the will of God to their own benefit, preach forgiveness to the abominations, permitting the ilk who were once stoned for their sins to live on. They shall be punished. The Son of God died for the sins of the world, and yet cesspools such as Gotham and the Vatican continue to exist." With a look at her side, Cassandra saw Tim and Stephanie struggling to contain laughter. How they could felt beyond her. An extremist who hated other believers too? This all felt out of hand. "And it is through this and my search that I have discovered the truth. It is written Enoch walked with God and eventually became a peer. By Kelly's ancestry, it was his destiny to reveal the truth of Enoch's writings. By my ancestry, it is my place as their descendants to bring about both the truth and the will of the Almighty. Just as the Metatron himself, I was born a man but have ascended, not as a mere angel, but as the highest, the Seraphim. And with that power I have come to deliver destruction to your wretched hive. As the fires burned up Sodom and Gomorrah, as the plagues laid waste to Egypt, as Jericho, Nineveh, Ekron, and countless others were destroyed, as God raised the earth itself in the flood, shall I end your city. I am hardly the first to attempt this purge, or have you not wondered where all those worms you do battle with come from? God wished to see this city destroyed. You are the only thing standing against its rebirth. And for that reason, Batman, you and your disciples have made yourselves my enemies. Relish your time now, heretic. We have other work to do before we finish you. You have become a symbol. You are not a fire so easily extinguished, but rest assured, your time is coming. Very, very soon. At that point, the recording went silent. Bruce stared at his computer stone-faced for a moment before he turned to the three. Tim, Stephanie, maybe even you, Cassandra, I assume you understood the implications of all that. Just that he's completely insane, right? Tim said. I didn't catch half those references, but like you said, you're afraid he's an idiot. Afraid for our city, not for us, Bruce said. If he was at least some kind of down-to-earth Christian occultist, we could maybe rely on that. We could know if he was going to specifically target a certain group, a certain section of the city, something like that. We could even draw on some obscure weakness. Stephanie chuckled. What, like painting lamb's blood over every building in Gotham to keep him from bombing them? That would be one way, I suppose. She balked. I was joking! It doesn't matter anyway. I've heard some absolutely absurd religious babble out of cultists like this, but this has to be some of the worst. By the worst creationist standards, his claims are utterly ridiculous, let alone what the best of us would think of him. Surprised, Cassandra asked, How well do you know what he's saying? Yeah, no offense, Bruce, but I never took you for a Bible thumper, Stephanie said. I'll remind you my memory is nearly photographic, Bruce tapped his forehead. And, as established, I've dealt with cults before. I already knew a lot of what he was talking about, and Barbara and I managed to fill in the rest. That descended from Enoch business is the most preposterous part of the rant. Enoch was an ancestor of Noah. Reading the text literally would indicate everyone is a descendant of Enoch. Even from his own twisted perspective, this Seraphim doesn't talk any sense. To say nothing of the fact that Edward Kelly didn't have any biologically children, or that even his title is incorrect. Seraphim is plural. The singular would just be seraph. Putting this information together mentally, Cassandra had to smile a little. He really has no idea what he's talking about. Just like I told you, Cassandra, words and ideals can be twisted in the wrong hands, Bruce said. Should I take this as confirmation we're going to start reading again? Stephanie grinned at her. I know I kinda acted like it was a pain at first, but it's been good to hang out. I want to help. That's what friends are for, you know? Let's not get too ahead of ourselves, Stephanie. Bruce pushed up from his seat. Right now, we need more information on what we're dealing with. Unfortunately, none of the men in Gordon's custody have shown any signs of cracking. I've divvied up what we're going to investigate tonight. Oracle and I have done our best guesses at where he's going to strike next. Get dressed, and let's hope we get some answers. As the three left their mentor to his work, Cassandra couldn't help but feel relieved by all the recording proved. The Seraphim wasn't in the least the person she aspired to be, and he apparently got a lot of things wrong. It was more like Stephanie and the Monsignor she aspired to be like, and extremists such as the Seraphim didn't lessen her respect for them at all. She owed Tim another thank you, and Stephanie another apology.